It's not loud. Turn it up. No, it's not on.
Test.
No, no.
That's all right. Deb? Yeah. Okay. Welcome to Blue Wave NJ's New Jersey Governing Series. Tonight is the Gubernatorial Candidate Forum. Thank you all for coming, and a special thank you to the candidate, Newark Mayor, the candidates, I should say, Newark Mayor Roz Baraka, Jersey City Mayor Steve Fulop, Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill, and former Montclair Mayor Sean Spiller. All right. Now look, I run grassroots organizations. I know what it is to get out for your candidate, but not here. Not here. I am going to ask you all to show respect for each candidate by not booing or hissing or clapping or shouting, all right? We all want to hear. Tonight, we are going to listen to the responses to the same question. So make sure everyone can hear, because if you're shouting, they can't hear what's being said. All right. It is my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Brandon McCoy. He has been a long-term friend of mine and one of the smartest policy experts I know. I know he looks like he's 18, but he's not. Brandon is currently the president of the Fund for New Jersey, where he served as its first philanthropy fellow. Prior to the current position, he worked as the vice president for state partnerships and co-leader of the State Fiscal Policy Division at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities in Washington, D.C. Before his Washington job, he was president of New Jersey Policy Perspective and worked as an analyst and director of government and public affairs before assuming the leadership position of that organization. Brandon is a lifelong New Jerseyan and now resides in Hunterdon County with his family. I want to thank him for agreeing to do this, and I want to thank all the candidates for coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcia. Can you all hear me just fine? Okay, we're going to make sure, I'm going to speak up, and also our candidates have their best Bobby Brown microphones, as Mayor Full was saying. So we're going to make sure everybody can hear everything that's being said. But we want to get started because we want to stop by 7. And so we want to make sure we get to as many questions as possible, just so we know, that everybody knows the rules are, as much as possible, a 1-hour conversation. Please tailor your answers as well as you can to no more than 90 seconds. I know it's tough, but we want to get to as much as we can. And I will be modifying and changing the order of answering so that everybody has an opportunity to answer in different orders. So let's get started. Up top, I'm sorry, there will also be closing remarks, so we'll make time for closing remarks, okay? All right, so up top, very important. President Trump is actively undermining the authority of the U.S. Supreme Court and has put the country in a constitutional crisis. Will you form an alliance with the other Democratic governors that are standing up for the rule of law and protecting our democracy? And please share, as governor, how will you respond to these attacks on our democracy, and how will you protect New Jerseyans? Can we start from the left with Mayor Spiller and then end on the right with Mayor Baraka?
Yes, well, thank you so much, and thank you for having me. Thank you all for being here today. This is one of the ways that we push back, coming together, being part of democracy. Listen, this issue is personal to me, right? I'm an immigrant who came here as a young boy with my parents. I understand the struggles, the challenges this nation has always had, but never did we have a president of the United States who was literally threatening the very fabric of who we are. pulling kids out of their classrooms and threatening them and saying they're never going to see their parents again, rounding up and deporting folks and saying you made a mistake, pulling citizens off the street, folks who served in the military, going after our funding for our kids and their school lunches, going after seniors for what they need, violating the Supreme Court in so many ways. This is unprecedented. And certainly right now as governor, we need somebody who's going to stand up for every single resident and understand that I will never bow. I will never bend the knee, kiss the ring, because it does not get us anywhere. We have to push back against what's happening right now. And this is that moment where it's on all of us to stand up. I know that as a labor leader, as an organizer, as a mobilizer, it is going to take more than just the governor to take action. I'll take that action, but I'll need your help, every single one of you, to say, folks, this is not who we are. It's not who we are as a nation. And if we want to stand up for our democracy right now, if we want to stand up for our students, our communities, if we want to stand up for the very future of this nation, this is the time we lock hands and say, we show our values by speaking up loudly and push back against what he's trying to do.
Thank you. Congresswoman?
You know, I took my first oath to the Constitution when I was a younger daughter. I don't know. Oh, turn it on. Great advice. How's that? We used to say in the Navy you have to be 10% smarter than the equipment you're operating. Nevertheless, wonderful to be here. I was telling people that I took my first oath to the Constitution when I was a teenager. I've served in the U.S. Navy as a helicopter pilot and a Russian policy officer. I've served again at the U.S. Attorney's Office, and now I serve as a member of Congress. And I will tell you, when I look at what's happening in this country right now, I'm reminded of those lessons I learned when I was just starting off my career. You know, the worst thing you can do in the Navy is to run a ship aground. And yet time and again you find that when that happens, there are people on the bridge of that ship that know it's going to happen and they don't say anything because they're scared. They're scared of the commanding officer. And I see that again and again and again right now. People who are too scared of Donald Trump to just stand up for basic rights and freedoms, to say, no, this is where we draw the line and this is wrong. I see it when I watch Jack Ciattarelli, who, as I say, broke a land speed record to get to Bedminster and bend the knee to Donald Trump. I see it when I watch the collapse of so much that we care about in Washington, and that's why I'm running for governor. Because yes, I will work with every single Democratic governor across this nation. I'll work with any governor across this nation who wants to stand against what's happening in Washington as we fight hard for those rights and freedoms that we care about here in New Jersey. And we can lead in a different path forward. And we can serve people in a different way. As he attacks everything from rights and freedoms to affordability to the tariff prices across the world, driving under a lot of our small businesses we see here. I'm going to be the governor that builds houses and drives down cost, fixes our broken utility system by forcing PJM to put clean power into the grid, making sure that we're attacking and addressing our broken healthcare system as we force PBMs to drive down pharmaceutical costs. So with all of this, yes, I am going to build broad coalitions across this country as we lead it here in New Jersey to fight for the things that we most care about.
Thank you. Mayor Phillip?
First of all, I want to say thank you for coming out today. I only got 90 seconds. I'm going to try and use those 90 seconds to not talk in platitudes, not tell you lofty goals, not tell you, repeat the question back to you. I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm going to do that's different. And I think that's important at this moment in time. You know, my time in Jersey City, I have a lot of scars fighting big fights. There is a reason that most of those political bosses would convene meetings, anybody but Steve Fulop. It's because I've engaged in these fights, and I have a track record beyond just talking about it. You've seen all the commercials. Everybody's going to fight Trump. Everybody's going to fight Musk. But the reality is, what are you going to do? I'm going to tell you 3 things that I think are different about our actionable steps. The first, at this moment in time, you have an attorney general that has led the fight nationally with regards to litigation pushing back against Donald Trump. Continuity is very important to protecting us. Most governors will point a political person into the attorney general position. I say very clearly, I will give Matt Platkin the opportunity to stay, and I think he will. Number 2, thank you. Number two, the current governor has done a good job in building the surplus from $500 million when Chris Christie left to $6 billion. It's very, very good. It's meaningful. But in this moment in time, there isn't a person that goes to bed at night saying, thank God New Jersey has a credit rating of XYZ. You care about the cuts for Medicaid, for Social Security, for our schools. You need to be thinking about how to offset those cuts, drawing down on that surplus in a responsible way and choosing where you can fight those. And then the third thing, it's important to have a vocal governor because the first line of defense is Trenton. We call our legislators in Washington and we yell at them and we think that's good and we feel good about that. But you need to hold your Democratic state Senate, your Democratic Assembly, and your Democratic governor accountable and to be more vocal. The Immigrant Trust Act, transgender care, women's health care. There's a lot of things that we should be doing in Trenton to push back on Trump and be the first line of defense. You will have a fighter in me. You will have somebody who has a track record of being a fighter from my days in the Marine Corps till my days in office here, every day fighting, and a person that has a clear plan and a vision on how they're going to move New Jersey forward.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Baraka.
Thank you. Again, thank you for pulling this together. I appreciate Blue Wave for inviting me, allowing me to be a part of this forum this evening. You can usually tell what people are going to do based on what they have done already. And so we don't have to wait to become the governor to fight Donald Trump. We can be fighting him today. We can be fighting him in Congress. We can be fighting him as mayor. We can be fighting him on the school board. You could be fighting him wherever you are. If you're not doing that now, how do we know you're going to do that later? And that's really what this boils down to. Like, when people create all of these things that they're going to do, I would love to see them at the rallies that we have to close the detention center. I would love to see what the laws that they're passing, the voices that they're raising, and the things that they're creating in the offices that they hold now. Because, if you're in Congress, you should be fighting Donald Trump right now, in Congress, right now, right? And as mayors, you should be doing the same thing because your constituency still needs you. You still have immigrants in your community today, right? As a matter of fact, if you're not Native American, everybody around here has ancestors who are undocumented. That's just point blank. So whether you come from the South or South America, right? At the end of the day, these are things that you need to be fighting now. Protecting the LGBTQ community is something you can do today, not as governor, but right now, today. If you look at people's records and you look at the things that we say, you base that on the things that we have already done. So I agree, yes, we need a surplus and we need to make sure that we fund the things that Donald Trump is going to attack. I also think that because we give more money to the federal government than they give us in return, that we have to begin to start leveraging what that looks like and begin going to the table saying, listen, if you're not going to give us the funding that we need, then we have to use the funding that we already have to fund the resources and institutions that exist in our state. And I think right now there's a time more than any to say billionaires have to pay their fair share, that multimillionaires have to pay their fair share. We can't afford to subsidize them, particularly now in this crisis that we're in. We need that money back in our budget because we have to fund Medicaid. Instead of going backwards, we should go forward. If he threatens Medicaid, then we should be talking about Medicaid for all. We should be talking about a single-payer system, a public option. We got to go further, not backwards, right? The further we go, the higher we get, the longer the game is. And so the reality is you need a leader now. You don't need a moderate person. You don't need an academic. You need a leader that inspires people, that gives people hopes, that gives them the courage to fight, to stand up wherever they are, in what position they hold, in what office they hold, and what job they have, to come out and fight now, and build a broad-based coalition. Because even in the rallies that I've gone to, with hands-off rallies, that were incredible across the state of New Jersey, there was very little diversity in those rallies all over the state of New Jersey. And we have to see that and speak to that immediately, because if we want to win, all of us have to be in the fight, not just some of us.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. So very quickly, recently Trump's DOJ assigned Alina Habba to be the state's top prosecutor, and she promptly announced launching an investigation into the governor and the attorney general regarding compliance with federal statutes for immigration status and, immigration status compliance. The governor and the AG's instructions for NJ law enforcement followed the state's 2018 Immigrant Trust Directive, which limits the types of assistance that the state and local law enforcement officers may provide to federal immigration authorities, including Immigration and Customs Enforcement, more commonly known as ICE. So as governor, how would you work to defend against, one, the specific situation of authoritarian intrusion, and two, wider federal challenges to U.S. democratic policies for immigration? Can we start with Congresswoman Cheryl?
Yeah, so that's my old office, the U.S. Attorney's Office. And to see someone like Haba there, who has basically said she's going to politicize the office, she's going to go after every Democrat in the state, is incredibly dangerous. And then combine that with the fact that we now have a president of the United States who is weaponizing every force of power that he can. And then I sit with members of my community. I was just sitting with a couple. The woman was born here. Her husband was not. He's a naturalized American citizen. He wanted to go visit his family in South America, and he said, "What do you think of that? People have said it's dangerous." I said, "I think it's dangerous." And she said, "But he's an American citizen." I said, "Trump has said he is going after American citizens next. He has said he does not even believe in birthright citizenship, much less naturalized American citizenship." So imagine here I am, as an elected official, having to have this conversation with people because our government has gone so beyond the Constitution. So that's why it's incredibly important here that we fight for our laws and our Constitution. We are a nation of immigrants. We are a nation of laws. Those two things should never be in conflict. And so when we have a U.S. attorney like this, we know that we need our state system to stand strong, to make sure that we are advocating for every person, that we are standing up. And that's why as governor, I will enforce the laws and I will enforce the Constitution of the United States of America. It's what I've always done and it's what I'll continue to do.
Thank you. Mayor Philip, then Baraka, then Spiller.
So Alina Haba's comments were based on the fact that they were trying to squeeze the governor and send a message around immigration. And it's very, very important that we respond accordingly. Let me just speak for a second about this immigration conversation, because I think that there are very few people in New Jersey that have my track record. Beyond being a family of immigrants, and my mother's entire professional life was devoted to immigrant affairs, that was her business in Newark. When I was first elected in Jersey City, we established an immigrant affairs office, which happens to be the only nationally accredited immigration office in a municipal building in the country. We do about 1,000 items per immigration per year for our constituents. We were at the forefront of the resettlement program for Ukraine refugees and Afghanistan refugees. And I tell you that during COVID, when the federal government and the state government wouldn't provide money to undocumented people in Jersey City, we raised private dollars to make sure that those people had access to food and resources that they needed. I'm proud of that. When President Trump got in the first time, we were one of the first to reaffirm that we were a sanctuary city, because I thought that was an important message. When Alina Haba is pushing and sending a message around immigration to evoke fear, the most important thing that New Jersey should be doing is standing strong and reaffirming our commitment to immigrants here in New Jersey. The Immigrant Trust Act has sat idly in Trenton for months, if not years. And that is a travesty, because it sends a message to our federal government that we will not be intimidated. And that should be the governor pushing that. Secondly, you have seen tons of nonprofits throughout New Jersey that help legal immigrants here navigate the system, that their entire resources have been dried up because people are scared of supporting them. Trenton needs to support those people and recognize that they're doing valuable things for our state. I tell you, in a moment when the bully is pushing you, the most important thing is to push back. Those are itemable, actionable steps that I'm telling you I would take, and I have a demonstrated track record of leaning into this issue hard. This is not a new issue for me. It's in my DNA of who I am, and as governor, I would be the exact same person.
I appreciate y'all, but please hold applause so we can get to most answers.
So first, I'm going to start off by saying I support the Immigrant Trust Act. I think it should be passed. It should happen immediately. The policies that it's in the Immigrant Trust Act is what we enforce in the city of Newark today, right now. And I think there needs to be a cadre of lawyers on standby, just as we have an office that pays for tenants who are trying to go to court, who are being illegally evicted. We need to have an office in the state or lawyers on standby to protect immigrants who are being taken off the streets, to protect professors and students who are being attacked because of their beliefs. We need to have that on standby. When Alina Haba made those comments, I commented back. I said something back. I sent her a video from me to her to tell her to visit Newark and check out the immigrants and the documented and undocumented communities that make New Jersey and Newark as diverse as it is. I didn't wait till I became the governor to say anything to Alina Haba. I said it, as the mayor of the city of Newark because I have to protect my residents today, not tomorrow. We had a student, right, from Newark who went to school in Newark who was a DACA student. He worked in City Hall, right? This is the first Trump administration. They kidnapped him then, tried to deport him. With the help of the late Congressman Donald Payne Jr., we were able to get him back to the city of Newark. He is now a teacher in Newark Public Schools because of the work we did to make sure we secured his citizenship and secured his protection in the city of Newark. I did that as the mayor years before I even thought about running for governor of the state of New Jersey. This is something that we've done, and this is something that we will continue to do. It's not really a difficult thing. We don't have to go back and forth about what I will do. Just look at what we have done already. And I would ask you to do the same for everybody else.
Thank you. Mayor Spiller.
Yeah, listen, I concur. Listen, I think the Immigrant Trust Act absolutely should be passed before any of us step into the governor's office, right? And it's a travesty that it hasn't been. Certainly as governor, I'll support that. And I'll also use the power of executive orders at the state level to be able to react quickly to what Donald Trump is doing every other day with his latest executive order designed to sow division and fear and come after folks. I think that's an important piece. We talked before, a lot of us, about the need for a strong attorney general who's working to uphold our laws, making sure that we're not doing anything in state that is cooperating with ICE and sharing important information. And that's a key piece of it, because what we're seeing right now is a number of different agencies that are trying to gather data, gather the information they need to operate and to go after folks. And as a state, we need to make sure we're protecting that information, we're not sharing it, we're not coordinating in any way, and putting folks at risk. We're seeing the impact right now. People are afraid to take advantage of state-level services, state-level support, because they're worried that this information, their identity will be conveyed to the federal government, right? These are all ways we need to have a role in that and need to push back. But I understand how you push back, right? Listen, this isn't the first time we've seen a bully. I got to tell you, we've seen our own bully right here in New Jersey. He was a guy by the name of Chris Christie. You may remember that, right? And I can tell you, he went after one group, and one group specifically. He went after educators, right? He went after unions. And I was there, pushing back, fighting to still get things done for really hard-working folks. And that's what this moment reminds me a lot of right now. We cannot sit back and say, well, I think this will pass. We cannot sit back and say, I think this is somebody else's issue or somebody else that they're coming after. This is us. And yeah, I mean it personally. Look, I'm a naturalized citizen. When they talk about eliminating that, going after folks, revoking it, when they go to our colleges and universities and say, if you speak up, you speak out, we're going to come after you as well, we're going to send you home, right? This is our moment again, folks, where we've got to stand up and say, we don't support this, right? We're not going to sit back and allow it to happen. That's when our voices, all of our voices, get silenced. So as governor, I'll speak out, I'll push back, I'll fight that bully, as I've done before. We'll organize, mobilize, get folks together, utilize every tool of government, state government, to be supporting the groups that need it with our budget and our priorities, but also working to push back, not coordinate with ICE, not share our information, protect residents in this state. That's what's on the line right now, and that's why I'm running to be governor.
So can we just get a clear answer? Some of you have said it, but just so that there's clarity for everybody in the audience, everybody watching. Will you pass the Immigrant Trust Act? And if you don't want to pass it as is, what would you change about it so that you would want to pass it? And can we just start and go down the line?
Yes, absolutely pass it.
I have deep concerns about passing it, quite frankly. We have the Immigrant Trust Directive, which has withstood courts, which has withstood a Republican-appointed judge. Opening this back up at this time, I think, is quite dangerous, and I think when we take these steps for political reasons, instead of actually thinking about the people we're serving and how we best protect them and keep them safe, I think we not only could harm people here in New Jersey, but quite frankly, I think this could go all the way to the Supreme Court and actually imperil rights of people in other states. So I think given that we have the Immigrant Trust Directive on the books right now, which is currently protecting people and has withstood the courts, I actually think that's a strong position that I'd like to see us ensure we're protecting.
I wholeheartedly disagree with that. And every single good government advocate, every immigrant right advocate in New Jersey talks about the importance of passing this. It's clear as that. No bending, no changing. I vote yes, and I would support it.
I concur.
Okay. Thank you. So considering everything that's happening right now federally, it would be very difficult to sort of predict what would be the biggest issue that you would have to tackle on day one or your first 100 days. But given what's happening federally and also the fact that there are likely to be catastrophic cuts to programs here in the state, what areas do you feel are going to be most needed to be defended, and where do you think it is most crucial that the state make up for the loss of federal funds? And we'll start with Mayor Fuller.
As a mayor, I understand that the political capital that I'm going to have in that first 90 days is very different than the political capital that I'm going to have for the next 3.5 years. We learned that as being an executive. And it's very important to do heavy lifting at the beginning of your term from the revenue side of the conversation to fix New Jersey. That means revisiting tax brackets. A millionaire's tax from 20 years ago is no longer a millionaire's tax. Revisiting the farmland tax that vacates $500 million to taxpayers. The New Jersey Transit fix, which Governor Murphy put in place for only 5 years, and you cannot capitalize against that to fix New Jersey Transit because it was a Band-Aid approach, needs to be done immediately. The first thing that I will prioritize is fixing that revenue side. The tough conversations politically need to happen immediately, because if you are going to be consequential as a governor, if you are going to move New Jersey forward, you need to understand the fact that these decisions have to be done immediately. And they're going to have consequences politically, but they're the right thing to do, particularly in this moment in time.
Mayor Baraka.
Well, I would agree with that. I would repeal the Christie tax cuts that he put in place when he was there, that Democrats didn't repeal. $15 billion over that decade or so went to millionaires and multimillionaires in this state. I would bring that money back immediately, put it into revenue. Turn our tax bracket right side up. It is upside down. Millionaires in the state pay less of their income on taxes than people who make $100,000. It's absolutely incorrect. It needs to be turned right side up in this state. And we need to be looking at other opportunities, luxury taxes and other things to put revenue back in our budget. We need to reduce healthcare spending. The two number one costs that we have besides state New Jersey, which I think, by the way, is absolutely broken and needs to be fixed, redone, or thrown out. Ultimately, our health care and schools. So we have to reduce health care costs. We reduce our health care costs by going with reference-based pricing, begin to start talking about a single-payer system. We have to reduce those costs and use those savings to put back in our budget. We need to do that immediately. We need to combine some of these school districts statewide. There are too many school districts in this state. There are more school districts than actually municipalities, so there are more superintendents than there are mayors, and they get paid a lot more, by the way. But at the end of the day, we need to combine these school districts, have unified school districts, save taxpayer dollars, put some more money in our budget. These are things that we have to do immediately to save revenue, to do the things that we may have to do because Donald Trump is a maniac. And so at the end of the day, we have to take care of the families throughout the state of New Jersey by making sure we have revenue in our budget so we can do the things that we think are important to us.
Mayor Spiller.
Yeah, listen, I think as we have this conversation, and I think the premise is fair, like what's the thing that's going to be coming at us next? What's the thing that's going to be coming at us as we step in to the governor's seat, the governor's office? I think the challenge that you're seeing so many institutions face right now is that what Donald Trump is doing is he's going after the money, right? He's threatening folks with the money, right? He's challenging folks with the money. So we know where these attacks are coming from, whether it's the $1.1 billion. Right now, he's saying, hey, New Jersey, you're going to lose from your public schools because you better not be teaching DEI in one of the most diverse states in the nation. You're going to lose it all. Or he's going after Medicaid and Medicare, where our seniors are losing the care that they need for assisted living. Or he's going after dollars around elections because we're not going to, ask for identification and voting and all. It's about the money. But I'll say this: I appreciate the dollars and the ideas of let's look at surplus and see if we can plug some holes with that. I appreciate the ideas of hey, let's see what programs we can modify here in New Jersey, things that we can change to try and make up some of that gap. But at the end of the day, as Governor Murphy's administration has put out, we get in about $22.5 billion a year from the federal government. $22.5 billion. We are not going to massage and navigate and trim and figure out ways to make a state budget make up for $22.5 billion. It's not going to happen. And when you talk about stepping into office, the bold action that we need right away is to look exactly at what Donald Trump and his puppet master Elon Musk are going to do. We've all read Project 2025. They're gobbling up and stealing all these dollars from us and every program we utilize, every service we need, because they want to give massive tax breaks to billionaires and ultra-rich corporations. And what New Jersey needs to do right away is to boldly change our New Jersey tax code to get every single one of those dollars back and to put them in the programs and services that our New Jersey residents rely on each and every day. Enough with small talk and making up for it in little ways. Let's be bold. Let's take the action we need to, and let's not then be beholden to every cut by cut by cut that Donald Trump threatens us with, unless we acquiesce, bend the knee, maybe think we don't want to get in the crosshairs, don't take the action we should to protect folks. Unacceptable. Guys, we need to take bold action. We need to do it by having the revenue, and it means follow the dollars. Follow the dollars, go after them with New Jersey's tax code, change it so we're not beholden to the federal government and Donald Trump.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
I just worry very much that when we look at the demise of the federal government as we know it, which we see Donald Trump destroying, and we look at the values that we've had as a democracy and we see him attacking those, and all of you are here because you want to stand up for that, as do I, as does everyone on this stage. I just worry that we're getting caught thinking too small about how this is all going to go, and that we're going to make up for it by some tax innovations, or we're going to make up for it by fixing, broken systems that we have in the state. And I guess when I look at what's happening, this is a moment when you've kind of heard from the stage about a lot of things that are broken here. So I guess when I think about where we are in this moment, Donald Trump is the worst president that this country's ever seen. And I mean, not for nothing, we lost to him, right? So we need bold ideas to lead into the future, and that has to involve re-envisioning our healthcare system. That has to involve re-envisioning how we're going to actually drive down costs. We have to deliver efficient government. I know it doesn't sound that sexy, but my God, if you can't afford a house here and I'm talking to you about abortion, maybe you're not going to vote for me, right? We have to re-envision how we are going to fix this utility system, because right now we're acting like we're great because we've divested of a lot of fossil fuels, but guess what? We're buying coal-powered fuel from West Virginia. That's the honest truth. So what's the plan here? And I would say right now, looking to the future, I've got to tell you, we've got to have federal block grants. On day one, I'm taking this government to court because they are in violation of what they are demanded to do. They are in violation of court orders, they are in violation of congressional orders and statutes, and he is in violation of the Constitution of the United States. So take him to court, demand federal block grant money back, because we know here in New Jersey, as you've heard laid out, there's no making up for the federal dollars that we're gonna lose if he cuts all of them. Demand those back, and then rebuild here in New Jersey a different path forward. Not just to lead here in New Jersey, which we need to do, but how we go forward in this country. Because I guess the thing that's driving me crazy, and as I sit here, I've worked incredibly hard on a lot of different fixes for the problems we're seeing. So whether it's investing in flooding, or investing in new clean power technologies, or investing in delivering on mental health resources, or keeping people whole and safe, I think it's really important work, and I'm really proud of the work I've done, but we sit here today and it's not enough. It's just not enough. And when we look at FDR, and when we look at Roe versus Wade, and when we look at the Voting Rights Act, we have just been seeing those chip away for decades. And so now here we are at the crossroads, and are we just gonna apply Band-Aid fixes, or are we gonna take a new bold vision? And that's why I'm running for governor, because I think we have an opportunity here. I think we have a real opportunity here to reimagine how we run our state, and I think we're going to have to do it in conjunction with other states and other Democratic governors, because the way Trump wins is by tearing us apart. The way he wins is by picking apart law firms. The way he wins is by picking apart universities. The way he wins is by dividing all of us as Americans, and re-envisioning some weird white Christian nationalist nation like the Speaker of the House envisions. So this is why you're here today. This is why I'm running for governor. This is probably why we're all on this stage, is because we're not going to stand for that. We in New Jersey are going to take a different path forward.
So speaking of vision, because I would certainly agree about there is often a lack of vision when it comes to people who hold great power. It is a fact that the state, as it currently is, we have the most jobs we've ever had on record. We have the highest population that we've ever had on record. Even though it may not be the sexiest thing in the world, we have the best bond rating that we've had in quite a long time. These were hard things to accomplish, and so how do you keep that momentum going, right? 8 years ago, all those things were awful. Now we're in a much better situation on those fronts. Those are very important to being able to afford programs and investments. And so how will you continue to advance the successes of the economy that we currently have and not throw out the baby with the bathwater? And if we could start with Congressman.
Yeah, I think so much of what you're describing isn't felt by working people. And I was talking to a woman, and what she said just resonated with me so much. And it was, you know what, Mikey? In this state, there's rich people and there's working people. And all the working people do is work. And I think when we think about, as we were growing up, what being middle class looked like, it looked like security. It looked like the ability to work hard and have a good job and then be able to take care of your family, maybe have a week off in the summer. You know, it didn't involve 3 jobs. It didn't involve that gut-churning end-of-the-month decision of, am I going to pay my mortgage, or am I going to pay for food, or am I going to pay for prescription drugs? I mean, that's what middle class is like in too many cases here. And that's not stability, and that's not opportunity. And then on top of that, we have a president of the United States, and I'm sorry to keep harping on this, but I'm telling you, it's impacting all of us right now, who is trying to make everything worse, who has a vision that he is going to have a budget that is going to cut $880 billion from Medicaid, the program where 1 in 3 New Jersey children receive their health insurance, and where many seniors are using that program to stay in nursing homes and to live out the rest of their life in dignity. And he is going to cut $880 billion from that. He's going to cut the Department of Education. Also, he can fund tax breaks for billionaires. I mean, we have got to, in this state, push into the middle class. So yes, I think our bond rating is really important, and I agree with you. Nobody else thinks it's important. You know, it does not sound sexy. I'm sorry, it's not. But it enables us to borrow at lower rates and invest in the things we care about. And so we have got to make sure those things we're investing in are things like building houses. Because right now, nobody can afford a house here. If you did not buy a house before COVID, well, God bless you trying to get in the market now. If you are a senior and want to downsize, and maybe there's a young couple that wants to move into your house, where are you going to move? Where are you going to move with the interest rates and the property cost? So we've got to invest in houses. Again, we've got to drive down utility cost, and we've got to make sure we're addressing the healthcare system. So getting rid of those PBMs, those middlemen that drive up prescription drug costs 10 times, making sure that we have an independent auditor on the state health benefits plan, which is such a huge cost for municipalities and property taxes. So we have to drive all of this, but again, I'm not backing away from the idea that some of this stuff, like the healthcare system, we have got to re-envision and reimagine and demand those federal dollars back to our state.
Mayor Baraka.
We certainly got to reimagine. Everybody's talking about something bold that we need to do. I think the boldest thing you can do is make sure Ras Baraka is the governor in November. And the number one thing we have to make sure that does not happen is that a Republican wins the State House in November. That we all have to agree upon that collectively. I would say that we have to, in order to continue the economy that we're seeing now, we have to invest in working people. We have to use the money that we have to invest in working families. We have to lower their costs by lowering health care costs. And there's a particular plan to do that. You have to lower healthcare costs. You have to build more affordable housing throughout the state. There are 230,000 units of affordable housing that needs to be built in the state, and we can't build it in the way that we're moving right now. We have to make sure we lower insurance costs in the state. You cannot give people tax breaks while allowing the cost to continue to rise. It makes no sense. And then secondly, we have to invest in businesses, small businesses. The small businesses in New Jersey hire most of the people in New Jersey. The Latino businesses represent 20% of the workforce, even though the state government invests less than 1% of its dollars in black, brown, and women businesses. In Essex County, where we live, they invest less than 1/2 of 1% in those businesses, which is worse than the entire state of New Jersey, by the way. So we have to invest in small businesses, watch those businesses grow, begin to give them credits for hiring people, for training workers. We have to invest in schools. We have to invest in community colleges and make it affordable for people to go to community college. Great pathways for folks to come out of high school to go to community college and get a job right away if they don't have a pathway to the university. These are things that we can do right now, right? And things that we should be doing right now. We should be investing money from the state in affordable housing, not raiding the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. We need to be investing in the transportation infrastructure in this state to expand it so people can get to work cheaper, faster, more reliable. We need to do that because raising the fares 15% does not make the state more affordable, especially in a city where I'm from, where 50% of the people don't own a car. These things are important. If you want to make democracy work, the economy work, it has to be more inclusive. Our economy is very exclusive. We have to make it inclusive, bring more people, add more people to it. You know the surefire way to lower your taxes? Get more people to help you pay them. That means get more people in the middle class, give them an opportunity to get a job, give them an opportunity to own a home. You know, these are the things that we should be working on. Not giving tax breaks to people who make $500,000 or more, not giving tax breaks to corporate billionaires because we don't want them to pay for the transportation infrastructure, not raising the gas tax, but not putting a fee on limousines or fuel on private jets. These are things that we have to do and think about in this state if we want to invest in working families. And the last thing I'll say is the problem that Democrats are having is not Republicans, it's us. The reality is we live in a state where we're in control, and us being in control means that we are the party for working families, but working families are the ones that are struggling the most. Our fees are too high. It's difficult for us to get to school. Our kids can't live in the neighborhoods where they were born and raised. Our school prices are too high because the kids are not in our school system anymore. We're fighting with each other about affordable housing. We can't seem to build affordable housing. Our school funding formula is broke. This is under Democrats. Under Democrats, the wealth gap in New Jersey has doubled from $300,000 between white families and black and brown families to $600,000. These things are getting bad. They're getting worse under our watch. And so if we want people to come out, then we have to learn how to govern. We have to learn how to govern and make our word our bond and give people hope and inspiration, or they're going to stay home and you'll get Chitterelli in the State House if we don't do what we're supposed to do.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Phillip. Absolutely. So, you know, our economy, even though it's not operating as it needs to for everybody, there are still things about it that are much better than they were 8 years ago. And so, how you keep improving upon the successes that we've seen.
So let me start by saying I think that Governor Murphy has done some good things. I don't think he's been bold. I think we could have been more bold. And I think that effective leaders are people that are willing to push boundaries. And I don't think we've done that. I think coming after Chris Christie, there were a lot of low-hanging fruits and things that other people had done that were accomplished in New Jersey. Paid sick leave, the first place was actually Jersey City. We were the 6th in the country. The minimum wage, same thing. Plastic bags, same thing. Decrim cannabis, same thing. We've been at the forefront of a lot of conversation, and the changes in Jersey City didn't happen by accident. When people say that it happened because you're 3 miles away from New York City, I always say the same thing, that we've been 3 miles away from New York City for 250 years. The reason it changed is because we are willing to push and be bold. I think that the next phase is really important that somebody understands government and execution around this. When I'm in South Jersey, they talk about the unemployment rate and the poverty rates, which are very, very different than over here. They talk about infrastructure issues. The hard issues weren't really addressed over the last 8 years, is the truth of the matter. The transportation infrastructure is priority number 1 to fix because that leads to housing, leads to economic development. As somebody who's dealt with transportation and built the largest microtransit system in the country that operates in Jersey City right now, I tell you, we need to reestablish that tax, which we pushed initially, to fund New Jersey Transit, so it's not a 5-year fix, it's in perpetuity. So you could bond against that to upgrade your train stations. People need to feel that a train station is clean, is nice, is welcome, so they come back. Number 2, to fix transportation, because that leads to everything else, you need to cancel that turnpike widening extension in Hudson County. It's a $12 billion project to alleviate traffic, which is absolutely silly because if you think about it from a common sense standpoint, it doesn't matter if you have 25 lanes. The Holland Tunnel is still 2 lanes, so you're still going into the same bottleneck. And I would tell you the privatization of buses that's happened 20 years ago is a total disconnect with regards to the mission of New Jersey Transit versus the mission of a private vendor. So if you are going to build and have an economy that works for everybody, you need to be clear on a vision on what you will tackle first. Housing is a key part of it. And again, going back to BOLD, I mean, we know we have housing segregation and educational segregation in New Jersey, and Governor Murphy pushed that to the courts where he could have been bold to address those things. But the key to fixing those issues is also fixing the transportation system. If you fix the transportation system, places like Montclair will obviously benefit, but so will the state of New Jersey. South Jersey, which is neglected, you need to invest there with mass transit because that will lead to job creation, that will lead to more housing, that will lead to better schools, desegregation. That is the core of the issue to address first in order to continue progress that we've seen over the last 8 years.
Mayor Spiller.
So let me say this. When we talk about continuing the progress, I do think I agree. Governor Murphy deserves a lot of credit, right? Coming in after Governor Christie and the massive number of credit downgrades and all the challenges that we were facing, there was a lot to dig out from, and Governor Murphy's done a good job with that. But it's come to the key pieces, and the question was, how do we ensure we keep moving forward on those? It does mean we've got to elect a Democrat, but I'd argue it does matter which Democrat we elect, right? Because oftentimes, right, we wonder why we get the same old results, but we elect the same people who are supported by the same political power or political bosses or the same Wall Street money or the same Elon Musk money or the same, and we get the same. This is a chance to say, how do we invest in the priorities that we're also hearing hardworking New Jerseyans talk about? Because when I'm out there and knocking on doors and I'm talking to folks will say, Sean, oh my God, Donald Trump, what he's doing, how can you help? And that's a big issue. Folks want to hear all about it, right? Folks, yes, appreciate that the economy's doing a little bit better, and we've seen that here in Montclair, right? We reduced our municipal debt by over $60 million, saved us about $3.5 million in debt services. We've invested that in the community. Those are all good things, but at the end of the day, folks say, Sean, here are the big ones we need help with. Number one, housing. We've got to address the issue of housing. We ran into that right here in Montclair, right? Passing the first ever rent control law as a stopgap, right? Because we saw how crazy housing costs are becoming. As governor, I'll address that directly. Number one, with home ownership. For someone like me who it took me 2 years to afford my first home in this town, a multifamily home, because it's all that I could even remotely have a chance at, that option is not even on the table anymore for families because we know that venture capitalists, LLC, corporate entities are gobbling those up and they're jacking up the rents on everybody else. By the way, if you're trying to bid against them, your mortgage is so high you can barely afford it. As governor, I'd create a period where we, the people, have the chance to buy homes first, not competing against Wall Street and those corporate entities. That's a huge piece for ownership. I'd work to make sure the banks that sit on these abandoned properties and trickle them back into the market so they can keep costs high are forced to push them back in, so we've got opportunities for first-time home buying. I know that the other side of that ledger is also about rental units. Right now, the courts have come in and say, you've got to build housing that's affordable, folks, and we all agree there needs to be affordable housing everywhere. But what's happened is town after town after town, where they're not suing to stop it, has come back and say, hey, developer, you build it. And we keep seeing 400, 500 luxury end units with 5, 10 units that are affordable. As governor, I would invest dollars because that's where it lies. We need money and help from the state to say we're not going to build these huge things that don't have any affordable housing, right? We're going to build something much more in line with the nature of the community. But we're going to build 20 units that are affordable, 20 that are workforce housing, because there's tons of folks who can't afford to live in a town but don't qualify for affordable. We're going to build senior housing. We're going to build veterans housing. We're going to build housing for folks with special needs. We're going to layer it in there and get what folks need. That's how we address the issue of housing. Second is quality early education and childcare. I say it having a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old right now. The average cost is $19,000 in this state. In Montclair, by the way, it's $20,000. And all of you who are doing it know that you scramble to try and get in, you try to get the early care and aftercare, add another $10,000. That's unaffordable for so many families. We've got to address that by opening up the space to say more folks come in and do this by changing the way we compensate. Instead of doing it on a fee for attendance for a child, do it on enrollment. That's the only way you build some stability and open up opportunities for more folks to take advantage of. We've got to address the issue of increasing healthcare costs. 25%, 15% increases year after year after year. Well, I'm proud to say I'm the only one sitting up here who's literally designed healthcare plans that have saved the employer and the employees billions of dollars. And we've got to do that more broadly. As governor, I'll go after the big offenders in this. It's the insurance company. right, who won't tell us what they're charging but keep increasing the costs. It's the hospital balance billing and the increased cost that we see there. I know how to get this done. We've done it already with reverse auctions and other pieces at the state level that we push for. And the last thing I'd also say is this, or the last couple is this. We've got to focus on the environment and our energy bills because they're related. That 20% increase that we're seeing, it's because we're still hooked on big oil. And every time we try to get off, there's the next reason why we can't do it now. We've got to move to the green economy. Why? Because it's good for the environment and our future, but it's also good for our bottom line when we diversify and we don't always have to rely on big oil. We've got to invest as a state, which is what I'll do, in renewable energies and the green economy to move us forward and save us money. And right here in Montclair, we've seen it. Those 100-year storms happening every other year. There's a cost to not doing enough right now, and we've got to address it. Those four main pieces are what folks are talking about with me all the time. And we talk about why is it such a challenge that maybe a Democrat will have to get reelected, another Dem here in this state. It's because while we've improved our credit rating and helped in other ways, we haven't addressed those big issues that folks rely on each and every day and see those dollars coming out of their pockets. That's how we stand up for New Jersey residents. That's how we stand up for the working class. That's how we ensure a Democrat is there to keep moving forward policies that help the people, not the rich and the powerful.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. We have 10 minutes left until 7, so I want you each to do your closing remarks, but I'm going to have 2 rapid questions that I want you to give your top answer to. So first question, and we will go Mayor Baraka all the way down to Mayor Spiller. First question is, you all talked about building housing. I graduated from Blaustein, which is the major policy school in this state. The issue with housing development is home rule. And so what was the number one thing you would do to get around home rule or deal with home rule to develop housing in the state? Mayor Baraka.
Well, I think we need a statewide zoning ordinance, a zoning map that kind of allows, especially when we're talking about affordable housing and how we need to build it and be creative about it. You can't do it with a multitude of zoning laws or zoning ordinances all over the city, all over the state that are wildly different from one another. We have to have some uniformity around the state of New Jersey that talks specifically about bypassing some of these things in order to build what we need to see. Home rule was good 50, 60 years ago, maybe. Today, I think it is an impediment to our development, is an impediment to our progress. It is causing our prices to go up. It's causing taxes to go up. There are too many cities. We have more cities in New Jersey than California, which is 8 times the size of New Jersey. We have to really begin to think about what's happening here. Okay. We have to really think about it.
Thank you. Mayor Phillip.
I want to piggyback on some of that and be very, very clear with kind of the direction that I'm going to go, which is a little bit different. We've seen the state experiment with consolidation for some period of time, and if you think about it, there's 564 municipalities, 75% of them are less than 20,000 residents. So you clearly need some consolidation to drive down costs. And governor after governor has talked about it with limited outcome. They've tried these pools of money to incentivize. They've tried to get the legislature to do it with limited outcome. A week ago, we rolled out our affordability plan, and all of these are very, very comprehensive. I would urge you to read them about transportation or housing. They are very detailed, more detailed than anybody. But I want you to think about for a second what we did around the affordability on the home rule situation, which is different. And the League of Municipalities, which is the group of mayors, hates that I'm doing this. They talk about it since we rolled it out, and they think that it is adverse to their interests, which probably means that I'm on the right path to it. But inherently, what I want to do is create more referendums around bonding on the local level. I believe that you should have more ability to have a check in responsiveness and say no to your mayor and your municipal government. And now the reason I'm doing that is twofold. It's very similar to what you have on a Board of Education. But the reason that I want to do that is because you do need to create some failure in the system so that Trenton has leverage in order to force consolidation, in order to force conversations of shared services. Absent of a leverage point to move that forward, you will never get that. The best way to move that conversation forward is all of you, is people that live in those municipalities that act as a check with regards to referendums on their mayors and the councils. If you execute that, the entire paradigm on how you work on municipal government will change, and it will change how home rule operates, which ultimately leads to better things like more housing. Okay. Urge you to read it, StephenPhillip.com, www.
Congresswoman.
Thank you. Yeah, so building more houses has been a centerpiece of my race, and that's because that is the key to driving down costs for New Jersey. And so as we see all of the problems that come up both in home rule but also from Trenton, all the permitting and regulations, you know, we have talked to builders here. It can take up to 4 years to do a building project here in New Jersey. It takes about 4 days to get it permitted in Texas. And so what we need first and foremost is a statewide vision. So on day one, I'm going to start the public hearings process so we can both take the vision for the state, which we have in the plan, the vision for transportation across the state, how we're building out industry across the state, where we're building houses across the state, and the flood maps that are coming out across the state. And then through this, and through having the vision of how we're going to build out our state and make use of commercial properties and repurposing and revitalizing neighborhoods that are underdeveloped, then as we do that, utilize the force of the people, all of you, to then bring together the expertise that we need to make sure that we have all the zoning in place to do it, bringing in our mayors and municipalities with the people on the ground, and push in on all of these regulatory fixes and permitting reforms so we can build this state out. Because quite frankly, right now, we are not on a path to drive down housing costs in any way, shape, or form with the minimal building that we're doing.
Mayor Spiller.
Yeah, listen, I think here's the big challenge. A lot of what you're hearing, right, that folks are talking about is how do we get more housing on the market. That's an important piece of it, right? But I'll tell you this, the market is going to take care of itself, right? The market will, do just fine and keep building homes, and they'll do them for high-end luxury homes and these other pieces that the first ones they're going to build because they can get the most, bang for the buck on them, right? If we don't change it to a system where we, the people, have a chance to buy these homes first, we're not changing the system here, right? We're still going to get outbid by those corporate entities and interests, and we're going to still face the challenges that we see now. If we don't invest dollars at the state level to say, not only do I have to change zoning so you can build more units, which is great, but we've got to make sure that more of those units are homes that are affordable. That's another key piece to it, right? We're not just looking to build more high-end luxury units, right? We need to build more that more of us can afford. The last question we asked, hey folks, how do you protect to keep moving forward? How do we make sure we get a Democrat elected? We show the difference between us and others, right? We show the difference between why I'm running for governor and others. And the reason is because we actually have to fight for the little guy. We have to fight for the person who's struggling right now. And just having more homes that are built that are gorgeous and expensive, and more units, more rentals that are built that are gorgeous and expensive, yeah, that's a path to getting more and to have more opportunity and availability. And eventually, years and years and years and years from now, we'll see some costs start to trickle down. But we need action now. And that action means we've got to invest. That's what I'm going to do as a governor. Invest in our people to say we are working as government to do our job to help build a market that is more affordable for folks. With our restrictions and rules to, again, allow us the access, but also then the dollars that we need to create these bans that we can afford. That's how we address the big issue with housing.
Thank you very much. So we'll move to closing remarks, but I kind of want to frame it as a question that I think you'll like to answer, which is that this is a crazy time to run for governor. Why are you doing this? Right? And I said, I'm from South Orange. I went to TCNJ. I went to Rutgers. I live in New Jersey. I love the state dearly. So what is it about New Jersey that you love, and why is it that you are running for governor of this great state? And can we start with Mayor Fulop, then Congresswoman Cheryl, Mayor Spiller, then Mayor Baraka?
I'm just very thankful that I'm not speaking after Mayor Baraka. That's my thing. Let me start by saying thank you to all of you for coming out today. It's really inspiring that we see such large groups coming out and interested in our different visions for New Jersey. Let me start by telling you a little bit about myself from a high level, and that'll kind of tell you a little bit why I am running for governor. In my personal time, I like to play the piano. I run triathlons. I'm married to an amazing woman who's an entrepreneur. And I have 3 kids. I have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old. That's why I'm very happy to go to events like this, as a matter of fact. But I put that aside for a second, and I tell you, I do think about what this state will look like for them in 20 years. Being the mayor for 12 years, and a great Renaissance story, I've seen the changes that can happen with effective government. I also understand the disconnect with regards to Trenton and municipal government. And I said I was going to run for governor to run a different type of campaign when we declared, one that's very grassroots oriented and one that's very substantive in policy. And I didn't create any fallback position to have a political title to hold on to. All my chips are in the middle. I didn't say I was going to run for one office and another. I said I'm running for governor, and there's no fallback position because it's out of vision for New Jersey. I think our campaign is different in 3 substantive ways. First of all, it's about political change. And we talk about that every day. You pay a corruption tax every day in New Jersey that is unique to New Jersey. And that's because of the system that is here with county chair people working for Horizon and PSE&G and its incestual nature of how that works. You pay for that every single day. And our campaign is about accountability, about primaries, about changing that system. Secondly, our campaign is about details, about a vision for New Jersey that's very comprehensive and very, very clear. I mean, you could hear up here when people are asked questions, if you're fair and neutral about it and you listen, you could see that some people don't answer questions and some people answer questions clearly and directly and tell you what we are going to do. The trick is that most politicians don't want to say anything because if they tell you something, you're going to walk away from them maybe. If you hear my view on congestion pricing, you may not like it. So we're trained, most of us, that if you ask them about schools, they'll say, everybody needs an education. Education is good. End of story. But the reality is you need to be clear on a vision on how you can move New Jersey forward. And our campaign is substantive and detailed and clear and precise. You asked me questions. I said, here's the 3 things I will do specific to that. And the third thing is this moment in time is unique. This moment in time is dangerous because of what we have in the federal government. I think what Raz said is very, very important. It's clear that a track record is important over here. And being an executive, I believe, is the best qualification and the most important qualification to being the governor of New Jersey, because you need to understand how that works. It is a skill set. It definitely is. So I'm running because I believe that this moment in time is also unique with regards to fighting the federal government, and you need a clear vision about that. When you asked me that on the first question, I didn't say we're just going to fight. We're going to fight. I told you, these are the 3 things I'm going to do. The Attorney General, this, that, because I think you deserve it. And the only way people are going to come out and be motivated in November is if they understand that you have a vision that is different and can motivate people to come out. So that I want to say thank you for coming out today. It's inspiring to see you all here, and I look forward to your participation on June 10th.
Thank you. Congresswoman.
Well, thank you so much, and I apologize. I'm going to give my answer and run, but I really do appreciate everyone out here today. It's pretty moving to see all of you here in this time, and I think back to building my campaign in 2018, and it reminds me of why I'm running and why I love this state so much. And it's largely because of a lot of the people in this room. People who started fighting hard in 2018 because we were so concerned about the future of this country. When people wonder why I'm running, I've got 4 reasons, my 4 kids. And if you think you want to be here, I have 4 teenagers. So I'm really enjoying myself. But I have to tell you, when I look at the world they're entering into and all the challenges they've already faced with COVID and all the disruption there and the challenges with social media, and I think about now, on top of everything we're trying to build for them, every way we're trying to protect them and launch them into the world, now we see the federal government and all of the challenges that we're facing there. I mean, I have been so proud in my service, and I've been proud because what I have seen in this country is the opportunity that this country has grown for me and for my family. So I tell people, my dad grew up poor in West Virginia. He was the first person in his family to go to college and created a stable middle-class life for me, and now I'm in Congress. It's not because of who we knew. I mean, we didn't know anybody, right? But that's because in this country, if you work hard, if you're dedicated, you're supposed to be able to make it. And we're seeing that torn down. And I entered the Naval Academy. And you know, when I went there, my dad said, I don't know if women can fly in the Naval Academy. And I said, that's okay, I'm gonna figure it out. And I graduated in the first class eligible for combat in the United States Navy. And because of that, we've seen the first female CNO, we've seen the first female superintendent, we've seen the first female who has commanded an aircraft carrier, something I never thought I'd see when I was at the Naval Academy. And now I said, you know, because of my pride here, my daughter now wants to go to the Naval Academy, and she's set to go. And I thought it would be different for her, because I faced a lot of challenges there that I didn't want to see for her. I didn't want to see the misogyny. I didn't want to see the sexism. I didn't want to see some of the attacks that my classmates and I faced. And so now I'm seeing some of the same stuff, things I haven't heard in 30 years, being regurgitated. And so here in New Jersey, we're taking a stand. Here in New Jersey, we're fighting for a different path. We're creating that opportunity. It's why when you've heard on this stage is people who are driving down cost, driving in opportunity for working people, making sure that we have a plan for housing, for utility costs, for healthcare costs, for education. Because we are not focused on how we drive all the money up to the top. We are not focused on creating success for a very small group of people who then pull the ladder up behind them. We are not focused on creating this white nationalist society that I am seeing coming from Washington. We are focused on making sure every single person has opportunity in this state. And that's why I'm running for governor, because I believe deeply in that promise of this country, and I believe in this state we can actually realize it. And I believe that because of all of you who I've seen out, not just tonight, but for years now. Not backing down and saying, oh, I'm too tired, I'm too exhausted, I'm getting too old. No, saying, I know people in this room who are over 80 years old. I've been to their birthdays, right? And we are continuing to fight again and again and again, and making sure that what we are building for our kids is better than what we saw when we were young, and so different from what we're seeing coming from Washington, D.C. So thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you for everything you continue to do. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Mayor Spiller.
Thank you. Well, thank you again to everybody for coming out today. As I started this with, it's an important piece of how our democracy works and how our democracy is successful. The question was, why am I running for governor? For me, I think all the way back, and I think all the way back to being a young boy. And being a young boy whose parents lived all over the world, but then said, we're going to come to the United States. And of all the places, we're going to come to New Jersey, right? And this is where we're going to raise our family. And as a child, I knew, this is something special, right? This is something special that I'm having an opportunity to be part of, right? And that always has stuck with me, right? How special this opportunity is. But I've also seen the challenges each and every step of the way. I saw when my dad had to be away for months at a time as an engineer, chasing the job and then sending the dollars home. And I knew that, wow, that's hard. That's hard, that there's got to be that sacrifice for them to make life a little bit better for my brother and I. I became a high school science teacher because my mom was a math teacher in Jamaica, but became a high school science teacher myself and really proud of working with other students. But I saw the concerns, the frustrations, the fear, the nervousness that the parents of the kids that I taught would have when they were saying, my God, things are just getting harder and I want to provide for my kid. I want to be able to give them that tutoring. I want to be able to give them this extra help, but these are tough decisions and our family just can't afford it. I've seen it when I become a labor leader, right? Defending educators who were being attacked by a previous governor, told to sit down and shut up, vilified for doing the work of trying to help our future generations. Folks saying, my God, I can't take care of my own kids because I'm spending these dollars and time trying to take care of other folks' kids, and this has got to be a little bit easier than this. I fought as a mayor, right, when we've seen the rising prices of housing to say, wait a minute, what are we going to do about this? Because neighbors, renters were coming to my door and saying, Sean, they're increasing at 20, 30, 40%. It's out of control. Right? You look at why am I running for governor? It's because of everything. It's because of my kids and their future, yes. It's because of the challenges I've seen to be able to afford that, yes. It's because of coming to this country and knowing what it's all about and the challenges that are, but understanding we should be making it a little bit easier for folks. It's because of the families that I've seen. It's because of the work I've done with so many partner organizations to fight in our communities for what we need. And I'm just tired. I'm tired of the fact that we're always going out there. We're always putting up that lawn sign. We're knocking that door. We're making the phone call for some candidate who some party boss has told us is the one, or some person who we know doesn't fully align with our views and we didn't have much of a say in, or quite frankly, somebody who's funded by big money. Because every candidate in every election is always funded by big dollars. And I'm proud, listen, I'm fighting for working class folks. And as we have these conversations and folks say, my God, what's the biggest difference? Biggest difference is who I'm fighting for because of who I am. And you can look at it and you could say, I'm cool with Wall Street, the big money they give. I'm cool with the developers, the big money they give. I'm cool with the anti-education, anti-union reformers and the big money they give. I'm cool with Elon Musk's money. Look, I'm taking it from folks who it's a hard time to give that $20, $30, but that's the only way we get lasting change in a system. Because we can change all the things that I've talked about, the priorities around housing, healthcare, childcare, the environment, energy costs. But if we don't change these systems, we don't get lasting change. Because that phone call will be coming. And it'll be coming from those big dollars. And that's why we see people hedge and not take the action they should to fight for folks like you and me. Fight for working class folks who finally need a break, who finally need our voice centered in the decisions that are made. So I'm running for governor because this is our chance. This is our chance to put up those signs for ourselves. This is our chance to fight for a future that we need. This is our chance to say we're not picking for scraps that are left for us after the millionaires and billionaires take their share. This is our chance to say I'm not somebody who's looking for somebody who's going to check in on occasion and then check out to go fight for the folks who funded me. This is our chance to fight for ourselves. I'm asking for your support. I'm asking for your vote, and I know we can do this together. Thank you very much.
Mayor Baraka.
Thank you. I could say that I'm running for my children too, or that I'm running because my grandfather came here fleeing Jim Crow and with shining shoes in a barbershop and would love to see his grandson become the governor, the first African-American governor of the state. I could say a whole bunch of things, but the reality, we have to remember the time that we're in. There was a picture that I saw growing up a lot in my house of a woman named Elizabeth Eckford. She was a part of the Little Rock Nine. And she was on her way coming from school, and there was a mob of people around her yelling epithets and cursing at her and saying all kinds of things, right? And if you look at that picture, she's at the bus stop by herself, and there's a mob of people around her. And I always looked at that mob of folks around her, and it always scared me or got me angry. Then, you know, recently I paid closer attention to that picture, and there was one white woman in a checkered dress who had her arm around her while people were yelling at her back. Her name was Grace Lorch. I just really found a few years ago who this woman was. She protected her and yelled at the mob while they were trying to accost Elizabeth. She walked her to the bus, got her on the bus, and rode with her to her stop. In fact, there were two young teens that tried to get on the bus, and she pushed them off the bus. As a result of that, you know, they gave out her number, they gave out her address, and the White Citizens Council harassed her for the rest of her life. Her and her husband harassed them for the rest of her life. And I would say this is the moment we're in today. Like the kind of bold action that she took, the kind of ability to sacrifice and put herself in harm's way for other people. The Good Samaritan down the Jericho Road, right? This is the person, this is the moment that we're in right now, right? And so we can get up here and talk about all of the ways that we can rise in this moment. Most of us will agree on many of the things that we say. You'll find a few kind of, you know, things that separate us, that we agree on this and disagree on that. We're all going to say the same thing over and over again because we're Democrats and we're supposed to be Democrats and we're in a democratic state, right? And so we're going to say these things over and over and over again. I think now more than ever we need leadership, right? And that's missing. And if it was just about our plans, if it was just about us serving or us being in Congress, it was just about us having a vision on paper, then I would tell you Elizabeth Warren would be serving a second term and Donald Trump would be the president of the United States. Because it's more than just that. We have to appeal to people's emotion. We have to raise their concern. We have to inspire people, give them hope. Leadership is what we need now. We just don't need discussion and academics. We need leadership today. We need leadership that acts now and is going to act later, that we can trust. And people don't come out because they don't trust what we say, because we say one thing and do something else, or it becomes too difficult for us to fight for the things that we actually say we believe in. There's a lot of things that I'm sure the governor wanted to do, or things that he believed in, that he lost the stomach and the heart to push forward because it got hard, and because we got to give state of the states and state of the unions and state of the cities. You got to give wins, so you back away from the difficult things and just talk about all of the small things you can do. There are very, very huge things that we have to fight for in New Jersey. One of them is equity. Equity is hurting our economy. Our economy is not inclusive. We have to realize that. Home rule is not just about people's identity. It is stopping us from feeding families. It is stopping our economy from growing. It is stopping people from owning homes. It is stopping people from getting access to quality education. This is very real. This is very real in our state. The reality is there's a lot of inequity in the state of New Jersey, one of the wealthiest states in the nation. And the good thing about the problems that we're having now, that we're facing with this crazy person in D.C., is he's forcing us to see each other. He's forcing us to realize that the same fight you have is part and parcel of a larger fight. And because we refuse to see that for so long, that the women's right to choose is also a part of the fight for the increasing in minimum wage. That the increasing in minimum wage is also a fight to protect immigrants in the LGBTQ community. It's the same fight for equity. The fight against diversity and pushing diversity back is the same fight for us to have a clean environment in this state. When we get together, a broad-based coalition that we can build, a broad-based coalition, then we win. We cannot build it in our separate silos, in our fiefdoms, complaining about the issues that we have individually. Only when our individual issues become a part of a collective issue, then we can begin to win. And that's what we have to build in New Jersey. The same coalition Barack Obama built twice to become the president of the United States, that fell apart, that got us this guy, Donald Trump. And now we're fighting like heck to build this coalition again. And if we can't build it, we lose. And I'm going to tell you this, that we need bold, broad, uncompromising leadership in November, and I think I represent that leadership. God bless y'all.
Marcia is going to close this out, but remember to vote on June 10th.
I want to thank you all for coming, and I have one question. It's a yes and no, all right? Because what keeps me up is we don't have a Democrat in November. Will you support whoever the winner is? Every one of you. Yes. Thank you, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks for coming.
I sure do.